Please help support the channel by visiting our Amazon store, affiliate link below. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is $3 Theater, and today is September 25th, 2017. And before we get going, I just want to point out that this last weekend with the release of Kingsman 2 was also the 5-year anniversary of the release of Dredd. Now, if you did not see Dredd in the cinemas, I don't blame you. Lionsgate's marketing of the film was horrible. They didn't really know how to do it. I used to live in Los Angeles. When that movie came out, they had Sunset Boulevard lined with Dredd posters, and no one could really tell you what the movie was unless you were a fan of the comic and you knew that it was a new take on it and not, well, more of an actual take on it, like a more faithful take and not the Stallone film from 1996. And, we just had about Dredd Day, basically. That's the day that marks the anniversary of its release. And while we're never going to get a cinematic sequel, it's one of the ones that I will always say until the end of time, I'm so pissed off, never did get there. It's a fantastic movie. It's a well-made movie. It's a well-told story, and it's Dredd. And I just want to sit there and in 2017, 5 years later, just go, damn it. It's a great movie. I'm proud to own my copy. My local Walmart's selling the 4K version. I now have a 4K TV, so I might have to go buy myself something. But with that being said, let's jump into the first story today, which is It 2 has got a release date. I know, we've been patiently waiting for Warner's to come out and finally say when it's going to happen. I thought that they were going to shoot the movie very quick. My theory was they were going to rush production on the sequel. They were going to get it out by next September. And then if they were possibly going to do a third movie, that was going to happen as well with like 2019. Because let's face it, with the amount of money that it has made, it's not going to be part 1, part 2. All right, it's going to be part 1, part 2, part 3. Warner's is great at stretching these things out. I mean, look at The Hobbit. Did The Hobbit need to be 3 movies? Absolutely not. Did I like it as 3 movies? I absolutely did, but I can see why a lot of people didn't. I just happen to be a fan of most things that I watch because I'm very easily entertained. But that being said, Warner's is good at this sort of thing, and they may want to capitalize on that as much as humanly possible. Given the fact that the movie had a $35 million budget and it's grossed, I believe, over $300 million worldwide at this point, it's a lot. But anyway, the release date for It Part 2 or It Chapter 2 is going to be September 6th, 2019. Yeah, September 6th, 2019 is when we're going to see this thing come back. All we know right now is that Gary Doberman, or Doberman, however you want to say it, is attached to write the movie. I'm a little bit concerned about that. I don't think he's that gifted of a talent. Cary Fukunaga's script was very present inside of this version of It, and the fact that he's not going to be involved for the second half does make me really, it makes me be a little bit careful, right, with getting my hopes up. But if Andy Muschietti comes back and directs it, I have a feeling it will be pretty good. He'll care after the project a bit more, is what I'm trying to say. I just hope that we actually get to see something that's magnificent. But here's the other thing with that too: is It Chapter 2 will be in IMAX. That's confirmed. Now the reason why that's big news is IMAX had actually, and I didn't talk about this, I meant to, but IMAX had actually made a huge mistake by bumping It from being in all their IMAX theaters to putting Marvel's Inhumans in IMAX for 2 weeks. Now, it made sense as to why they made the deal. Don't get me wrong. You have Marvel Television trying to put a big event. They shot the entire first 2 episodes of Inhumans in IMAX. They wanted to display it in like the best possible format, and it just so happens that the entire thing was a turd. A gigantic steaming turd that the rest of us will be able to witness in just a couple days when it premieres on television. But the point is, they bumped It, and that's a lot of money that IMAX lost out on. And this year alone, IMAX is down. They have laid off a number of their employees. They've been trying like crazy to get people to go to the theater to go see IMAX movies, and it's just not working. And so they're hoping that by 2019 things might pick up, and by putting It, confirming It Chapter 2 for IMAX will actually probably do pretty well for them, because there were some moments in this movie, in the first one, that I felt were really, really well done for IMAX. And I would have loved to have seen the projector scene predominantly on that, because that was the only scene in the movie that made me go, oh, damn. So yeah, anyway, September 6, 2019, I'm pretty sure most of you are already salivating for the chance to go back into Derry, Maine to see what happens when now a group of 40-something loser club fights Pennywise the Clown for a second time. All right, so following up with another story that I missed last week, Linda Hamilton was announced that she would be coming back into the fold of the Terminator franchise with Terminator 6, the James Cameron produced, Tim Miller directed sequel to the franchise. And we're learning a bit more about it now from Arnold Schwarzenegger himself, who will be in the film. And he basically said that this movie has nothing to do with Terminator Genisys. It won't be a continuation of that franchise. It won't even be a continuation of Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines or Terminator Salvation or the Sarah Connor Chronicles. Nothing. It's all gone. Like dust in the wind. All of those previous entries into the Terminator franchise are not going to be canon. And let's face it, we all knew this was going to happen. And a lot of people are actually really happy about this because they felt that Terminator Genisys sucked. I actually am on the odd side of that, where I found it to be fun. And part of that reason, to be absolutely fair, was because I avoided any and all advertisements for the movie. I never saw a trailer, never read the plot synopsis, didn't even really look at poster art. Nothing of the sort. I avoided everything. So when I went in cold, and I enjoyed it a lot more as a result of that. That being said, I am 100% on board with this particular idea. Cameron has not had any control of the Terminator franchise since Judgment Day, so anything post that means nothing to him. Now, granted, he's come out and he has said multiple times, oh, this is the best Terminator movie, because he, of course, is going to talk up a property he created. But now that it's back in his control, and he's going to be able to make it the way he wants to make it with Tim Miller directing, we're going to get something far greater than Genisys. Now, Genisys had Alan Taylor direct, and Alan Taylor is a very good director, but I think he does better on TV than he does with feature film. And so I think that might have been one of the things that really kind of hurt Terminator Genisys. Well, that and the script wasn't very good. I liked the premise of Genisys, but the script was kind of because like left you wanting more. And they had talked about it being the beginning of a new trilogy, right, coinciding with the 2019, which was going to be the year that the rights for Terminator go back to James Cameron. And at this point, that's a done deal. They can't stop that from happening, and it's going to be big. Now, the funny thing about Linda Hamilton coming back, and if I recall correctly, and I could totally be wrong about this, when they divorced, James Cameron and Linda Hamilton divorced, Hamilton got the Terminator franchise, or a controlling stake in the Terminator franchise, as part of the settlement, because I think James Cameron cheated on her with one of the chicks from Titanic. Yeah, it's a whole thing. And so I think that's kind of funny because she helped kind of wrestle that away from James Cameron. And then now he gets it back, and now she's coming back into the fold. So it's just... There's some funny stuff there. But that being said, I love the idea of kind of doing away with everything post Judgment Day, going back into that world, because I feel that Linda Hamilton, as Sarah Connor, will definitely be able to bring that kind of crazy ass intensity back to it that she did with the first two films, especially Judgment Day. Schwarzenegger, he'll definitely be fun. Although, I mean, it's 20 plus years from Judgment Day, and so unless they're going to digitally de-age him or go the same route by having him grow old as Pops in Terminator Genisys, which again I thought was a very well done plot point for just trying to showcase the changing of time from the 80s to now. I'm just wondering what's going to happen with it. But we know this little bit, and that little bit gives me enough hope that they're going to give us a proper conclusion to the Terminator trilogy, and it's going to be Terminator, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and Terminator 3, none of that other shit. So this is a fun little story about Quentin Tarantino and Star Trek. Now, this popped up through TMZ last week, and of course, leading into the whole situation of Star Trek Discovery premiering last night on CBS, the hype was high for everything and anything Star Trek. And Tarantino on a podcast said that he would be willing to entertain the idea of directing a Star Trek. In fact, if he had the choice between a Star Wars and a Star Trek, he would most definitely go for a Star Trek movie than Star Wars. And he made sure to say, and I like Star Wars and stuff. But Trek to me feels more up Tarantino's alley versus Star Wars, right? Because Tarantino, he likes creating his own mythos. He likes working within his own universes. But the Trek one feels more grounded, more realistic, whereas clearly Star Wars is more, you could say, faith-based, so to speak, space opera versus science fiction. And Tarantino would be more akin in that particular world. Because I mean, look at Inglourious Basterds. It's a fairy tale. Set in, you know, it's revisionist history in World War II. Django Unchained, revisionist history set during the, during the 1800s and stuff like that. So it's like he likes to work in those particular worlds, and technically, Star Trek at this point is just revisionist history. But like way in the past, right? And so TMZ did say that they kind of alluded to the fact that Tarantino might be willing to postpone his retirement in a couple years to go and work on a Star Trek movie. And this has fans divided. I've seen some people out there that are like, oh my God, this would be the most amazing thing ever. And then others that are like, whoa, keep Tarantino away from Trek. Keep him away from Trek. I'm actually... Believe it or not, I'm actually of the mind of the people that would be wanting to see this. I would. I mean, here's the thing. Jackie Brown is technically an adaptation of an Elmore Leonard novel. All right, so Tarantino has done adaptive work before. You know, everything else he's done after that has kind of been a take on certain genres. I mean, look at Kill Bill. I mean, it mixed a whole bunch of different genres together. Same with Grindhouse, his Death Proof part of Grindhouse, and a lot of other things that he's done. He likes to kind of play within genres, play within themes. Giving him the ability to direct something that would be Star Trek related would be very fascinating, I think, because for one, it'd be insanely dialogue heavy, but there'd be probably some really interesting discussions about philosophy, about life, about maybe race or religion, and how it weighs on different societies and everything else. I could only imagine Tarantino tackling the Romulans, because I feel like he would be the person to kind of go after that particular... I would see, if I had to guess, I'm speculating, of course, he would probably go more like Vulcans and Romulan situation rather than like focusing on the Klingons. A lot of people out there probably would assume he would focus on the Klingons due to the brutality of them and how he might like to kind of play within that marketplace. But no, I think he would definitely want to go more for like the cold and calculated Romulans, and as well as the logic-bearing Vulcans, and then, of course, the Federation being in the mix. But the real question is, if he were to do this, if this were to happen, and of course this, much like Inglourious Basterds, is just a fairy tale, a fantasy at this point, I would like to see him kind of go and deal with take the current cast, because they've already been able to use Beastie Boys a couple times, so they're definitely on board with using 20th century American music, which is definitely something that Tarantino himself very much bases a lot of his films around, and being able to create something based off of that. I could just imagine at some point in time, like the copious amount of the N-word might be used. No, I'm kidding. Tarantino, though, would have to tone it down. It would never happen. What I think Tarantino should do, all things considered, is pen the script. Pen the script and release it out there. Just pen it, release it. For one, get it out of his system, so cathartically get it out of his system. And then two, put it out there for the world to read and to enjoy. Because that's pretty much the only way it's ever going to happen. That is unless he takes an idea that's similar to Star Trek and then makes it his own, very similar to what Seth MacFarlane has done with The Orville, which would actually be pretty cool to see Tarantino tackle a sci-fi genre that has roots in Star Trek but is clearly of his own design. To me, that feels like it could be something more realistic than not. And given his love of kind of dabbling in these different genres, as I said, who knows? We might actually get a science fiction Tarantino film if, well, the heavens align. All right, so jumping over into Marvel news, because it's not an episode of 3 Buck Theater, I think, unless I talk about something from the MCU. At this point in time, comic book movie news pretty much dominates everything, so it's just kind of makes sense to talk about this. But this is a rumor. This is a rumor that is super crazy, super weird, and I'm definitely intrigued to see if it's true, and I actually really do hope that it is true. Apparently, Matt Damon has a secret cameo in Thor Ragnarok. Now, one of the reasons why this is so funny, at least the mere suggestion of it, is that, there's all the talks from a long time ago when Ben Affleck was cast as Batman to have Matt Damon be Robin or to be some other character in the DCEU that would then team up with Batman and we would get a whole Good Will Hunting vibe going out of this thing. But, or Dogma, depending on your love of Ben Affleck and Matt Damon team-ups. But to have him go to kind of shun his bestie, shun his BFF in the DCEU to come over into Marvel and to have a cameo in Thor Ragnarok is just, it's too funny to not talk about, especially when you get the context of it. So apparently in Thor Ragnarok, there's going to be a traveling theater group, all right, and they're going to be retelling the story of the first Thor movie. And inside of this traveling troupe, you have your actors, and the actor that plays Loki in the stage play of Thor 1 is Matt Damon. That's the rumor. He's an Asgardian actor, right? Probably going to come in very over the top and just play it up. And while it's an awesome idea and it's fantastic, and I would laugh my ass off. Very similar to the Chris Evans Captain America cameo in Thor 2, which is probably one of the things they're trying to play off of. It might also be distracting. If you know that it's Matt Damon, if Matt Damon comes out, does the Loki line, and then turns at the camera, breaks the fourth wall, and winks, it's going to turn some fans off. I know that might be, a bit out there to say, but I do think so. I think if they played it for the effect of being a joke that the audience is in on, then it's going to ruin the moment. Whereas if it was treated more, let's say, from Matt Damon's cameo appearance on Eurotrip, which came out of left field in 2004 when that film dropped. He plays the lead singer of the band who makes the song Scotty Doesn't Know. And it's just, he's got shaved head, tattoos, and everything else. And at first you don't recognize that it's Matt Damon, but they never also wink to the audience that it is Matt Damon. So that's something to consider as well. And I think Taika Waititi and Marvel, they're not the type to have those kind of nods necessarily go out to the audience. They don't really like to break the fourth wall in that way. So I think that if Matt Damon is in fact an Asgardian actor playing Loki in Thor Ragnarok, it's going to be one of those real brief, real quick moments. It's just going to make you stop and laugh your ass off, and then appreciate that he was able to come in and have a bit of fun with it. But if they make a big deal of it, if it's like an extended cameo like Elton John and Kingsman, you're gonna kind of go, okay, like the joke might run on a little bit too long. But that being said, I'm still totally on board to see this scene, because in my mind I see it playing out like a really horrible, Shakespearean adaptation, like when I was in A Midsummer Night's Dream in the 6th grade, and it was just this horribly designed play that we all had to be a part in, and I played one of the girls' fathers. That was it. That was I had like 3 lines. I auditioned for Puck, never got it. Damn it! I think it would have been good as a whimsical Puck. Anyway, that's how I view it, like a really horrible 6th grade adaptation of the first Thor movie. Also, I do hope that the director is in fact played by Kenneth Branagh, because that would then just really kind of seal it in terms of being meta again, and also not giving too much away. And probably this is the reason why I think something like this might happen as well is because the James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxies have also heavily influenced where things are going in the MCU. And if you go back to the first Guardians and they go to the Collector's lair for the first time, you see Howard the Duck, you see like all the other elements from the Marvel Cinematic Universe that are there. And that's one of those situations where you could kind of go, okay, I get it. I get what they're going for. They're just kind of playing that up a bit more. And then this time by adding Matt Damon. Again, to kind of wrap this whole thing up, I'm totally on board. Okay, guys, finally today, we got some GAMBIT news. Now, it's nothing concrete, no shoot date, no production date, no release date, no nothing. Apparently, SplashReport.com got its hands on a script or some story details, and they've published it. I have no way of confirming if any of this is even remotely true, but the story seems interesting, and people have been sharing it around as if it is, so I figured it'd be fun to take a quick look and to see whether or not this version of the story is one that would be good for the silver screen. So this is what it says. Remy LeBeau is on trial in New Orleans. He's considered a huge security risk. We flash back almost 25 years before. Master thief Luc LeBeau runs into 8-year-old Gambit whilst doing a heist. Impressed by his skills, he offers to take the mutant orphan under his wing. Raised alongside other strays he calls cousins, the teenage Gambit becomes the superstar of the Thieves Guild. He encounters Belladonna Bordeaux while on the run from police. Sparks fly immediately since Bella is also a fellow mutant. Their love is directly prohibited by both families since the Bordeaux are sworn enemies of the LeBeau clan. Deciding to unite the two sides, Remy offers to have the two clans team up on a huge heist to profit both families. Of course, the whole plan goes awry, and in the chaos, Marianne Bordeaux shoots and kills Luc LeBeau. We jump to 10 years later, and Gambit is hired to do a job in Paris to steal something from the Louvre Museum. It was apparently a test job to see if he still has it. His mysterious employer is revealed to be Nathaniel Essex, aka Mr. Sinister. He offers Gambit $40 million to recover a mysterious trunk that was stolen by the Bordeaux clan. It will be auctioned off in the yearly Thieves' Ball where all the criminal organizations in the world meet up. It uses New Orleans Mardi Gras celebrations as a cover. Gambit decides to enlist a crew of mutants to pull off this seemingly impossible heist. Okay, so it's kind of like an Ocean's 11 version of Gambit. I'm not against that. Like, a team up of kind of smaller mutant characters in order to pull off a heist. That's actually not so bad. It seems interesting. It also has a bit of a Romeo and Juliet vibe. And let's be fair here. Anytime you can kind of add in some elements of Shakespeare, it does tend to make some storytelling a little bit better. If not somewhat contrived, at least somewhat more palatable. And so if he's, going to be doing this heist, it could be good depending on who he has with him. And if it's going to kind of tie into the greater X-Men narrative, then it will probably have to feature at least one or two people that we already know, or at least cameos by them in order to make it fit within the universe. Now, we don't quite know what happened with this. If this was the story that they were working with before everything kind of went tits up with the production, it probably has everything to do with the success of Deadpool and Logan. Two films with, well, you could argue minimal producer involvement. And by that, I mean minimal involvement from Simon Kinberg and the other powers that be at Fox, allowing filmmakers to create how they want to create. And that might be one of the reasons why this movie has already gone through a multitude of directors. Originally, Rupert Wyatt, who did Snow White and the Huntsman, was supposed to come on to direct this. He also went on to go do Ghost in the Shell, by the way, which was a serviceable film, just not a good adaptation. And then also, Doug Liman was on board to direct, and then he ended up walking away from it in order to go over to Justice League Dark, in which case he's then walked away from Justice League Dark, and now he's all on about, live, die, repeat, and repeat. And apparently now the rumor is that Frank Darabont has been brought in to adapt the screenplay as well as direct the movie. I don't know about that last one, man. I don't know about Frank Darabont. After the situation involving AMC and The Walking Dead, I don't know if he wants to go anywhere near comic book adaptations ever again. However, if the powers that be at Fox are willing to let the filmmaker have pretty much full run of the place like they did with Deadpool as well as Logan, then it's entirely possible that Darabont, given his track record, might be the perfect person to do that, because he would handle it in a way that's not going to be overly stylish. It's going to be well made, well put together, very well written, and probably be able to give us the best Channing Tatum acting out of anybody. It's not that Channing Tatum is a bad actor. I think he's a fine actor in certain roles, but him playing Gambit is one that I think is going to require a bit more nuance and subtlety than he's used to. And, and like I said, I'm a fan. That's where I think there's a bit of a line there. This is a movie that I do hope to see eventually come out. If Fox is really in the process of trying to revamp how they do their Marvel superhero movies, then yeah, bringing in Frank Darabont to do this is definitely going to put them put them towards the right path. The big problem when it comes to, let's say, the Marvel Cinematic Universe and other people who dabble in Marvel films is Kevin Feige has a vision. And if the directors don't fit within that vision, then they go. Edgar Wright, unfortunately. Patty Jenkins originally signed on to do Thor 2. Creative differences. Alan Taylor came on to do Thor 2. Didn't really have a lot of fun. Cited creative differences multiple times during production. He wasn't back to do Thor Ragnarok. You had Joss Whedon get into serious conflicts with Kevin Feige over the final cut of Avengers Age of Ultron, and so it's entirely possible that Fox is going to look at how Marvel does things, and yes, Marvel is super successful by homogenizing this particular, genre, but they've also, Fox, who I mean here, has had a lot of success by letting the filmmakers be filmmakers and create the projects they want to create. And the big thing there is Logan and Deadpool. X-Men Apocalypse felt like a studio movie. It felt like an overproduced studio movie, whereas Days of Future Past didn't. And that probably is because they were just hoping Days of Future Past would be okay, and they let Bryan Singer do his thing, whereas in, Apocalypse, it felt like there was a lot of fingers in the pie. And that has a stifling effect on films. So if GAMBIT ever actually comes to fruition, and this is a story they're running with or some variation as such, I'm on board. I'm totally on board. Like I said, the Romeo and Juliet angle tends to always be a good driving force for a lot of these kind of films, and it does toss a bit of an Ocean's 11 vibe on top of that. And you know what? If done well, it could actually be a very serviceable entry into Fox's, X-Men movie lineup. Alright gang, that wraps up this episode of 3 Buck Theater. My name is of course Matt Jarbo, and I thank you guys for hanging out with me today and going through some of the movie news. I know it's a couple days old, I was a little bit behind on schedule, but definitely leave your comments below. I want to know what you guys think. If you guys have movie news you want me to cover, be sure to send me a message, link below in the video description for how to submit to my website. Also be sure to subscribe and check back pretty much daily for other movie news and other commentary from me on TV or TV reviews, things like that. I'll talk to you guys later. Have yourself a fantastic day, and peace out.